Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we'll be talking about OP13. We are going to be talking about the short-term potential of it. Of course, in the long term, it will do really well. However, right now it is reaching numbers that might not be too sustainable. So we're going to be talking about all of those goodies in this video. OP05 may feel like an invincible set, but if you were in the hobby back when it came out, it was $300 and it plummeted all the way down to $120 on the low. Does OP13 have the same fate? That's what we'll be talking about in today's video. Alright, let's firstly talk about the predicament Carrying On His Will is in. So this box is about $300 about 1 month after release. Now, the last time this happened pretty much was OP05. OP05 was about $270 to $300 on its high when it firstly came out. Very similar to Carrying On His Will. So we check here, the release was November, but if we check December, it's about $290. So both December, both about the $270 to $290 range. Now, if we look at OP05, this is where it gets a little bit serious. So generally with TCGs, when you have a really expensive card inside, what happens is you have a lot of external money entering the hobby. So if you look at something like Final Fantasy Prismatic Evolutions, a lot of time big sets create a lot of anticipation, but when those big cards start selling, it attracts a bunch of people. So let's just say OP13, right? Now, if you've been in the hobby, if you have some sort of grasp on like what's a good set, what's a bad set, you would have bought OP13 at like 150, 180, however much it was, right? Because you would have seen the value. So it didn't really need to prove itself because it was already a really good set, right? But then when you look now, it's really expensive. PSA 10s are really expensive. The highest sales we've seen for the top chase is like $15,000. So you have a new wave of people who aren't really in the hobby entering it to try to pull the top chase. So what this does is this really pumps up the price to levels where it wouldn't be able to if it was just like a decent set, right? Like if it was just an okay set. So what happens is when external money enters the hobby, it jumps up to levels that's not sustainable. So OP05 is a really good example, right? So it came out in December, it was extremely hot. Now, if we look, you'll see it's 271 when it came out, then it was 277, then it was 259, and it held about 270 to 280 for about 120 days. However, the problem is that when people enter the hobby when there's a really good set, what do? They generally leave once worse sets come out and once it's less exciting. There's nothing wrong with that, but what this does is these people pump it up, it goes really high in price, and then the second something happens, they just leave. Now, I'm just going to quickly compare this to something like Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy is a really good comparison. So Final Fantasy is in a very similar predicament. Final Fantasy was a set that wasn't really that expensive until it released, until the top chasers sold for a lot, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, this was a set that has like an 80 grand card inside. I bought 10 boxes at $600 each. I could see the vision on it. I bought it way in advance because I could really see that this set was going to do some numbers. Now, the thing is, when it came out, you had a bunch of people who aren't Final Fantasy fans. You had a bunch of people who aren't fans of Magic the Gathering come in, pump the price up. You had influencers making videos about it. They were posting, opening it up, getting hyped up for it. So what happened was, this ended up being pumped to a level where if it was just Magic the Gathering fans, they wouldn't be able to bring it to that price this early, right? So basically what happened was it jumped all the way up to $1,400. Now I sold my 10 boxes for the high of like $1,800. I sold at like the very tippity top. Now here's the thing. If you look at a box like this, you know, about 6 months has gone by, people are chilling out, people are having more like clarity and they're thinking more straight now. Well, it went from like $1,700 on the absolute high, and now it's selling for $1,000. So it's pulled back by like 40%. But this is the thing. If you know Magic the Gathering boxes, you know that collector boxes don't receive reprints. This booster box has not received a reprint. It was simply just demand. And that's something that's really interesting about OP05. If we just quickly go back to that, you'll notice that it held its price. However, the second there was any signal of weakness, the second it slightly went down, boom, 150. The reason why is because when you have people buying at $300, they're so anxious. So let's just take a look at how many are selling right now at $300. So generally every single day, you'll have about 20 to 30-ish selling on TCG Player. You can see that's like within the span of like 2 to 3 days, usually it's like 100, 150. So it's like maybe 40 a day, right? Then you go eBay, probably like 40 a day as well. So that's like 80 in total. You go like card shops, Facebook, private sales. You go card shows, rip and ships. you're probably looking at like 300, maybe less, maybe like 200 boxes selling a day. Okay, so when we look at OP05, you'll notice that the same thing happened with OP05. It had a very similar situation where it was selling really quickly, like lots and lots a day. But here's the thing. You had so many people buying at $300. They were all anxious, all thinking like, oh, like, is this going to go higher? Because when something doubles in price and then people buy in, generally everybody thinks like, what's going to happen? Is it going to go up higher? However, these people are incredibly anxious. So the second it even shows any signals of weakness, everybody sells. The thing is, when you're at the top, everybody's hyped, everybody's excited, everybody's feeling this euphoria. What happens is that everybody's excited, everybody's happy, but the second it pulls back, everybody goes like, oh, hold up, what's going on, right? Like people start to panic. And then it goes down to 150. And then you can see it goes up a bit, and then boom, it goes down again. Now, this is a combination of reprints and demand dropping. The thing is, Bandai right now, there's a very good chance right now they are printing OP13. There's a good chance that they are just printing it, trying to just prepare for a big restock. Because that's what they did with OP05. They let it go up for 3-4 months. They let it stay at its price. And then they just dropped this bombshell of a restock that just plummeted the price. And that's the best way to do it. Pokemon should be doing it like that. And all these other trading card games, if they want to bring the price down, that's the best way to do it. The best way to scare people from selling is just do a massive reprint, a humongous reprint. Because if you pay attention to OP05, you'll notice that it took years to get back to that price. Now, here's the thing. This is the thing about OP05. You look, okay, it's $800 a booster box. So it was fine in the end. If you bought it for $270, you were fine. If you held it, and that's the thing about OP13, right? Like people are saying like, oh, you're buying at the top, that's stupid, like you shouldn't do that. Like, okay, well not to me because I'm not, but for people who were buying it and are buying at the top at like, 280, 270, 290, 300, the thing is, you're going to be fine in the end, right? Like provided the One Piece trading card game doesn't just die, you'll be fine. And that's kind of the beauty about it, is it's like, as long as you can stomach this, then happy days. But it's like, if I told you that OP13 is going to be $120 a booster box, would you still buy it? Because in the long term, you're very likely to do quite well. But in the short term side of things, I can't quite say the same. OP13 seems to have a very, very similar fate to OP05. I would not honestly be surprised if they just do a humongous reprint to bring the price as low as possible. Am I saying you should sell your boxes? No. Am I saying that you should panic and just like never look at One Piece? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, the best option is probably to dollar cost average. Whenever I have held an item that went up a very large significant amount in a short period of time, a lot of time they come crashing down. And the reason is just because you have so much external demand pumping it, right? So like OP05, PRB01, OP09, these boxes are organically, slowly but surely going up. OP13 is a little bit different. OP13 is being pumped up heavily because there's so much sales volume. But what happens once that sales volume slows down? See, like, okay, let's just look at booster box cases, right? So right now they're selling for like $4,000 for a booster box case. That's great. But it only happens because there's so much volume. So you have so many people selling, but then you have so many people buying. You've got to question, who are the people buying it though? Like, who's buying cases at $4,000 plus? Like, my mate sold a case for like $4,700, and he was basically a vendor at a card show. He had a case for like, about that range. And then this guy came up to him, and then he said, hey, I'm interested in the case. The guy panic bought. So basically the buyer, his story is he got late on One Piece. He missed out when it was cheap. So now he's FOMOing in last second. But dude, the problem is it's $4,700 is what the guy paid. Bro, that is like a lot. And you got to think, the people paying those prices, so you're telling me that they are paying it, they are just... what? Like, they're FOMOing in last second. So what do you think is going to happen when it pulls back by 20%? Say there's a reprint, it pulls back by 20%. Those people are immediately going to sell. They're going to panic sell immediately. And then it's going to bring the prices really cheap. So that's just a bit of a thing that I've been thinking about with OP13. I think it'll do incredibly well long term, incredibly well. And if you can hold for the long term, go for it. Like, you will do really well. However, my best advice is probably to dollar cost average. See, when this booster box was 180, I was saying like, yeah, this is a really good buy. And the reason why I was saying it's a really good buy at that price is because there's very little like downturn risk, and there's very high upward potential, right? But when you get to $300, it is a bit of a different ball game where it's a brand new set. We've seen this story happen before. We've seen what happened with OP05. OP13 is just a bigger, better set of OP05. It's got the same character as the top chase. It's incredibly difficult to pull. Of course, they're different in their own aspects. One has a signature Luffy, one has other features that helps it sell the box, but in the grand scheme of things, they are very similar. They're anniversary sets. They've brought in a lot of hype. External demand has brought it up. So it's not that hard to forecast it, right? It's not really the hardest thing out there. Now, on the flip side, you do also have the possibility that Bandai want to keep it expensive so that demand remains strong in the TCG. Will they do that though? I don't really know. It would make sense to me that they do that for OP05 or maybe PRBO1 or like blue bottom, white bottom, older boxes. I get that. But for a brand new set, I don't think it's in their best intent for it to be this cheap. And it's not like it has enough. It's not like it has enough fans that will realistically buy at $300 and it'll stay at this price. People's bank account will run out. And you've got to think about who are the kind of people who are entering the hobby right now, right? So if you've been in the One Piece hobby for a while, you're able to recognize the value of this. You can enjoy, you're, I guess, a step ahead, right? But if you are just from Pokemon or you're from Magic the Gathering and you're entering it thinking like, oh, it's doing really well, I'm going to buy in. Well, what happens when it doesn't do well? What happens when it pulls back? Because there's a very big difference being able to recognize the value. Once again, if you bought this box set, like this loose booster box that I got it for like $150. I bought a case for $1,500, about that range, right? So I was able to recognize the value of this set. I was able to recognize what it has to offer. There's a very big difference between that without even seeing it do well, without even seeing it explode in price. You're able to recognize the potential of it versus someone else where they are panic buying it last second because it's done really well. So it is definitely something to think about. I'm not saying this will happen. We don't realistically know, but I don't see it going up a whole ton more. And even if it goes up to like $400, right? Say it does go to $400. Okay, that's a 25% movement upwards. Okay, well, what's the downturn? It's a set that's still in print. It is more than likely going to cop heavy reprints in the future, so it can go down a lot in the short-term side of things. So I think your best bet, if you are looking to invest in OP13 at these prices, your best bet is probably to dollar cost average. Just buy one booster box every fortnight. Slowly but surely buy it, or however many you want to buy. Just, maybe if you plan to buy 50, then maybe spread it across like 2 years. I think that's not a bad buy. Maybe across 1.5 years if you want to. But that means any dips, any reprints you can buy up. And maybe like if it gets reprinted, you just buy up a couple more. Say it gets reprinted and it drops to 120. Well, maybe just go ahead and buy 5 that week. Maybe go ahead and buy 10 that week. But don't just FOMO in, buy 10 cases at $4,000. Don't do that. That is not smart. Your best bet is to just dollar cost average. Dollar cost average is a great way to protect yourself against reprints, protect yourself against market swings, is the best way to go with things. But yeah, that's what I currently think about OP13. I think it's in a very interesting situation, and where it's headed to is going to really shape up the future of it. If Bandai decide to not reprint it, yeah, it's going to be one of the most expensive booster boxes. If they do decide to reprint it, which is incredibly likely, we could see it go down to 150 very quickly. I mean, Pokemon is a great example, right? September, there was a box that jumped from about $600 to $2,000, right? It jumped within like a month. It jumped so quickly. That box is now like $900. So it went from $600 to $2K to $900. So it's like, think about all the people that panic bought it at the top, and now they're down over 50% on their money, and it still hasn't recovered to this day, months later. But in the long-term side of things, it will recover, it will do well, but it just depends. Can you hold it for 2 years without any returns? That's only you can answer. I can't answer that. no one can answer it for you but you. So that's something that you need to think about. This is why, you generally want to have more clarification. You don't want to just, buy once it just jumps up. I mean, you could have bought it for like 380. That's what I was advocating a couple of weeks ago. I was saying I think it's a good buy at this price. And then boom, it's jumped up. How many people are now buying it at this price because it's now double? And do you think those people are going to end up holding? Who realistically knows? Generally, when people buy when the market is doing good, they generally have a history of not staying. So yeah, it is definitely something to think about. But that is going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm keen to hear everybody's thoughts, but I will see you in the next one.